Hey everyone, I'm here this week again with Ernie Vargas, the Probate Fox, the man, the myth, the legend, and the genius, all wrapped up into one. My name's Rob Badhorn with Lead Fusion. Ernie, how are you doing this today?
Doing excellent.
Great, great. Hey, today we're going to do a quick 5-minute call on the secret strategy to buying properties, more properties with personal content. I think a lot of our sellers that we come across, that's actually a major hangup for them, right? Especially in the probate world where there's a lot of, I would say, memories associated with the personal contents, right, in these houses. So what are some of the strategies? Ernie, you're the man. You've been through this hundreds of times. What are some of the strategies that you like to employ on when there's a lot of personal content, in a house? What do you
Yeah,
do?
so I believe it's always about giving people options and really listening to what they're telling you, what their pain points are, what their problems are, and then laying out a couple of options for them, and then letting them choose, right? So essentially, you usually know what they are going to choose, and you're usually kind of walking them towards that decision, but you're letting them feel like they're making the decision, which they are. But you're presenting options, and so what I usually like to tell people is, we could go ahead and help you conduct like a yard sale, sort of a speak, right? Like an estate sale, where we sort of help open up the property and let people come in. It's a lot of work. A lot to do. We'd have to kind of work there together and make sure that nothing is necessarily stolen, kind of watch everything. So a lot of time involved, right? Most people don't want to do that. That's too much work. I personally am not crazy about that. I wouldn't really recommend it. Two, what if we bring in an estate liquidation company? Now we're talking about leveraging people's time. Right now, one of my preferred estate liquidation companies comes in, and I believe that every real estate investor that's specializing in probate should have a estate liquidation company. Their go-to estate liquidation company, and so basically, absolutely, and they come over, and what they do is they take an assessment of all the contents that are in that house. They go item by item. They tag each and every single item and designate a value to these contents. Then they conduct their own sort of estate sale on that property, and they usually have a list that they market this specific property to. And then folks from all over the place, a lot of eBay resellers and stuff like that come over, and they take a look, and they purchase items. At the end of the day, they charge a percentage of the grand total of the items that was sold, and the estate walks away with the paycheck in hand. Whatever wasn't sold is usually donated out to like some Goodwill or a charitable organization of some sort. That's a pretty good choice as well. But in some cases, the next option is what works, and this is one of the easiest and one of my favorites. Is I like to make an offer with all the contents included in the estate. So, seller, you don't have to worry about anything. Let me just go ahead and purchase everything. And it's a question of what do they want? What would make them happy, for these contents? What value do they place on these things? And Rob, would it be okay if I play a little a recap of today's call with some of my callers?
So you had a call today, and just on this topic, and yeah, absolutely. Let's do a live call or semi-live call.
Okay, awesome. Right. So here we go. Let me.
Okay, well, my thoughts, let me back up. The loose stuff, the stuff that I could pick up, everything was left to me. Everything inside the house was left to me and my daughter to do with as we will.
Okay.
So, the house itself, whatever we sell it for, gets split up between 3 beneficiaries. Okay. Amongst 3 beneficiaries. Okay. So, stuff I have to deal with. I have gone in the house, looked at the eyes. This sounds crazy. Looked at the eyes of those porcelain dolls and told them somebody's going to come and take you home. Okay, that sounds good. When I say it sounds goofy. I would like to be able to get some of this stuff taken, sold, used if it can be used by. I hate to see it tossed in the dumpster.
Yeah.
Okay, if it can be pennies on the dollar. I understand.
So basically, what this person here was telling me was that there was sentimental value to these things, and it just really it just really hurt her at the idea that these things that the loved one acquired would just get tossed into a dumpster. That would just crush her heart. And so for her, it meant more for her to be able to have somebody purchase these things, that they can do something constructive with these things, and that there would still be some sort of use out of these possessions, rather than them being tossed into the trash. And that's really important because there's so many different people. As we were talking earlier, she said, the deceased person was essentially a hoarder, and everything in the house, there were anything and everything you can imagine was in that house. And in addition to that, there were sheds behind the house full of more things. And there's just so many things. And so it was a big burden. It was a big problem. It was such a big problem that she couldn't really sell this house. However, she couldn't detach herself from the idea that this could just be thrown away, somebody's life's possessions. So what do? Is I presented her this last offer that I just talked about, where I can go ahead and purchase everything, the house and the contents. So now she feels like, I've made a good choice, a good financial choice. Plus, these things are being passed on to somebody else.
Yeah, no, and so you structured the deal, and I don't know if you had any audio on the deal itself, but you structured the deal so that there was value associated with the contents, and then there's value associated with the property. So she felt, at least, that she was getting value for what she left behind, right?
Right.
And then you gave her, basically your word that they were going to be, in an auction house, sold off, right? If the contents are valuable, then you certainly want to do that, right? Because you want to reuse. You don't want to just throw stuff in the landfill either. So I think that's a great concept.
Right. And what's interesting, Rob, is that there are some things that can't be reused, obviously.
Right.
Many of these things can be donated to a some Goodwill or charitable organization out there. We can totally do that for her. Call them up and have everything picked up, or have everything taken out there ourselves. And at the same time, I do have a relationship with a lot of resellers, a lot of individual store owners who have a dedicated business at just reselling a lot of a lot of little trinkets and memorabilia and just a bunch of things. You'd be amazed at how much value there are in different things. I mean, I can go into a whole story about that.
But at the same time, you want to systemize it too, right? You don't want to get caught up in looking over every trinket to determine value, right? I think really the gold bomb here is you want to have someone in your tool bag, right? We always talk about a tool bag. And that tool bag should include some sort of company that does estate sales, that comes in, that values the property, and then either does an auction or some sort of estate sale or garage sale or whatever that they do, so that you're not doing it, you're not wasting your time, right? But at the same time, it's bringing value to you because based on your offer, you said, hey, this is going to be worth X amount of dollars. And really, does it matter, the value of that? Not really, right? I mean, because really it's about what you're purchasing the property for. How much you're going to have to clean it up and get, dumpsters there for the stuff that you can't sell. And for. So,
right. As a matter of fact, let me play for you just a little piece of that right now.
I would get a separate dollar figure for the items inside the house versus a dollar figure for the house itself, the structure. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have an idea what type of a dollar figure these items have that are in the house, or something that you'd be happy with?
Well, maybe I don't want to scare you by asking too much.
Okay.
Because there's also 2 storage.
Where's more?
Out in the back, they're full.
Okay.
4,000, and we can work that dollar figure.
Okay.
So $4,000. She doesn't want to scare me. That's good. $4,000. That's a great price because why? What do I do? Is I roll that into the acquisition cost, right? And so really, it just becomes part of the deal. Not a problem whatsoever. Not a problem. In her head, she thinks it's a big problem. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do with this? I've got all these things. My goodness, I wish I could get $4,000. Is that too high? I come in, say, no problem. I'll take it.
And really, I mean, I think part of that call, because I remember hearing this call as well, that, she had heirs involved, and then she felt like, hey, that had to be a separate line item so that she knew what dollars to give to the heirs as well, right? To say, hey, if it's split by 4, then 1,000 goes to each heir pretty easily for the personal property associated with that, right? So again, I think going back to the tools, really, number one is, there's a couple different offers that you could make here. They clean up the property, right, and have some sort of garage sale and value it themselves. A lot of people don't want to do that, right? Or they're just out of town, right, and they can't. Too much work, right? And plus, it puts your timeline backwards as well in terms of buying the property. Now you can get it under contract, no problem, but buying the property, you're on their timeline now, which is another problem. Second thing is, you could together bring in someone, or the third option, which I think is the best option, and where you can buy a heck of a lot more properties, is you have that tool in your tool bag. Yeah, I'll purchase the property. I'll pay you for the personal content as well, so the heirs are satisfied, from some dollar figure. But overall, you're purchasing the property as is.
That's the winner. That's the winner. Yeah, and exactly what you said. I mean, my intention. It's really funny because I get some of the guys in my office. I get really excited. Oh my goodness, can I, go out? I'm like, dude, don't waste your time. Like your business is buying houses. That's your business. There's
a great mower in the garage.
Exactly. Yeah. Although I'll tell you, I've got some crazy stories about different things that I've picked up and have actually, found some treasures in some of these places. But yeah, it'll happen.
That's for another video, right? We'll go over those in another video. So, hey, Ernie, thanks again for the video here today. Again, the secret strategy to buying more properties with personal content in it. The best strategy obviously is just buy it as is. Because we buy other people's problems, we solve other people's problems. Just take it as is, and then do the right thing. Of course, if there's value in that, don't throw it away, right? Give it, at least give it to someone else if you're not.
Yeah.
And
right. And what I would really like people to take away from this, from today, is that understanding that this woman had many other people interested in the property. It's a very hot property, a very hot part of town. But they're only thinking with buying that house. They're not listening to the problem that this seller has. They have an emotional attachment to that property, and they feel that they have to do right by the estate with these contents. So I'm able to go in there now and buy this property, when nobody else is, because I'm not essentially in her eye, I'm buying the contents, but with that comes the house. So you have to look beyond, and that's how you get more houses, really understanding people's problems in probate.
I do. I agree. And one quick blurb, obviously we're in the business to sell probate leads and inheritance leads as well, right? Fully skip traced. And if people want to get a hold of us, there's the phone number on the screen there, 877-799-0101, it's supposed to say. And then customer service at leadfusion.com is another way to get a hold of us. So, hey, Ernie, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. And look for our next week, hot topic next week as well. Thanks a lot, Ernie. Have a great day. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.